Because all of those annoying jobs that you're used to and we are conditioned to do in the West, you just don't have to. The covers get put on by someone else, the boat gets washed by someone else, and if you choose, the boat can be driven by someone else too. So it really can be about designing the life that suits you. G'day guys, my name is Dan, you're watching Dan's Boat Life. I've actually sold over 450 boats in 20 years. And today I'm not selling any boats. I'm not affiliated with any brands or any dealers. And I've actually tested over 1,000 boats now over the last 30 years. I'm doing this so you can use these videos to educate yourself on what boat suits your boat life. So hopefully it's useful. Subscribe if it is. And my links are below in the description. Enjoy the rest of the video. Welcome to part 2, guys. So we're going to just show you the operational side of the boat. It's pretty straightforward on this one. We've got AC and then DC system. So you can operate the generator on and off. We've got shore power, battery chargers and inverters. We've got our engine start, domestic and instrument battery switches, and then windlass high load just there. Air conditioning. I'll give you a quick overview of the lower Helm station. So we're running the MAN 1650s. We've got beautiful electronic throttles on this one. We've got our Bennett trim tab operation from here. You can do both tabs with a single button or you can do them individually. I've got the VHF. We can do our single lever if you want to match the revs on the motors just here. Windscreen wiper operation just there, and we've got our engine start stops just here. This is the stabilization, so they're active fin stabilizations, and we've got them in 0 speed right now. So that means it gives us stabilization at rest, which is very, very important for a boat of this size. And I'm also going to say that fin stabilizers are better if you want to go out in the ocean compared to a gyro that just keeps the boat a little bit more stable and things are a bit more comfortable. So we've got our Raymarine autopilot just here, and when we've got triple screens across the dash. These are all multifunctional, so you really can do a lot with. This is the engine diagnostics in the middle, and then these ones we're cycling through. We've got engine room camera, we have the aft facing camera, we got the radar, we got the sonar, we got the GPS, we got a bidata just here. So I've got a replay of depth and speed. We've got variable speed, bow and stern thrusters. We are a shaft drive, straight shaft. We're going to head straight down into the engine room after this. This is your keypad if you don't want to do touch screen just here. And some of your primary instruments like horn and anchor operation, although we can also do the anchor from the bow, are done via these switches. And then we've got air conditioning, and as you may or may not have noticed over my shoulder, really, really useful side decks access. This seat will go forward and aft, but the navigator's seat will not. So that one's fixed, and we've got this big footrest just here, super comfortable on a good angle, and your visibility is great. But we're going to drive the boat in a second, so you'll see that for yourself. Come with me and we will have a look at the engine room. So we've got a wing station just here. Obviously we've got the flybridge helm, we've got the lower helm and the wing station, super useful for parking. Shore power on the port side. Okay, 2 cables on this one, and then come through this big door, and we've actually got 2 waterproof doors. But underneath me here, actually pass me the camera so you've got something to hold on to when you're coming down. So this is the crew space. You can see actually my bag just here. So we've got 2 beds and a little bit of storage, and they've got some drawers as well. Behind the stairs that I just came down, there is actually access into the steering gear, but we have a shower just on the center line, and there's actually a toilet. It's a double door. So this door right now is locking or closing off the toilet. And then when you do this, it opens up the space. So it's just a clever little use of space. But then you go through the first waterproof door, and this is actually not straight into the engine room. It takes you into some hydraulics, water maker, and genset space. And we can also get access into the bilge, batteries, what have you. But the hydraulics, so if you just have a look through here, this is actually the hydraulics for the stabilization. And you can see this space is actually separated from the engine room, and we have a big escape hatch above us with this ladder just here. But going into the engine room, and I mentioned the gensets on starboard with the water maker on top, going into the engine room, you go through this door. I'll take the camera because it's pretty hot and I don't want Cornlac to overheat. But here's the beautiful big MAN 1650s on the straight shaft. You can see all the refrigeration. You can see the raw water intakes. There you go. Now I'm getting them in shot just there. So look at the big sight gauges. Boom, boom. Exhaust. Look how massive that is. Isn't this beautiful? Big extractor fans. There you can see a lot of the cooling on its own rack above the motors. We're on this checker plate flooring just here. We've got some pumping, power distribution. We've got engine driven bilge pumps, insulation, a wonderful amount of insulation. And I just want you to look at all this, because when we fire these motors up and go for a drive, coming up next, you're really going to notice it. So, and to give you a feel for engine room height, I actually can't touch the roof right now. I'm only 5'7", but you can still be quite tall and you're not even going to hit your head. So that's quite a nice engine space. So from here, what we're going to do is fire up the motors, and we're going to cut to the next scene where we actually take this boat for a drive, and then after that we'll play with the anchor and the thrusters in a simulated parking fashion. We're going to have to do it out here because I'm not allowed to actually do it in the marina with the drone. Okay, so this is the sea trial. We're running the MAN 1650s on this beautiful machine. So in this part of the video, we're going to run the boat up through cruising speed. We're going to talk to you about fuel flow, what I'm experiencing. I'm going to do this part from the lower Helm, and then later in the video when we get to the next island, because there's quite a few islands to choose from around here and they're lovely, I'll head up to the flybridge and give you an experience up there. Obviously we've got the tropical air conditioning. We're very comfortable down here, so it does make a lot of sense just to hang out and drive here for the time being. So I'm just going to set the boat on course, and we're just in idle forward, so that's 600 RPM, and it's giving us a speed return of, through that turn there, 5 knots, and that will probably climb a little bit as we hold a straight line for a little while. We do have a moderate amount of wind coming from the south, so at the moment that's on my starboard beam. So when we make a turn shortly to starboard, we'll be heading into the wind, not more than about 10 knots, but we have a little bit of fetch, so you'll see that on the drone shots as we're making our way through the waves. And you can also listen to any noises that we feel through the hull. I think one of the takeaways, I've driven quite a few Princesses all around the world now. These are a very nice solid hull. This is a hull that you'll trust in many different sea states. So we're running the Sleipner hydraulic fins for stabilization. So we've got a upgraded genset to power those, and they have a SF800 fins, I believe, on them. Pretty no nonsense. You just got the panel here when you drive forward, and you have the stabilizer on and activated. It does the stabilization for you, and then when you hit anchor or are in a protected waters and the boat has slowed down and you want to rest for the day, essentially once you've dropped that anchor, you just press the anchor button here and it will do the 0 speed stabilization. So maintaining 5.8 knots and 600 RPM, let's start going through the rev range and take you along for the ride. It's always a little bit of extra work driving in Southeast Asia, because you have lots of little surprises that can pop out of nowhere. Generally, fishermen's equipment is the number one thing to look out for. I'm always very cautious driving at night time in this part of the world, and also just little boats coming from left field that you weren't aware of, because not everyone uses navigation lights around here, so that's a little fun one too. But you guys, if you're watching from Bangkok, Hong Kong or Singapore, won't need to worry about that, because you're going to be running this boat with a captain, guarantee it. So 850 RPM or 860 RPM, I'm seeing 8 knots speed over ground. That's 8 knots speed over ground. I've got a load on the motors of about 35% and a 24 litres consumption per side. 24 to 22 actually. You know what I'll do? I will sink these. So we've got them nice and even. Get that back to neutral, sink. There we go. What am I doing wrong? Both forward, sink. There we go. Okay, you've got to have both engines in forward, press sync, and then you can go forward on the one throttle. I think that's going to give us more accurate information, considering you'll be doing long cruises on a boat like this. Okay, so back on track, 800 RPM, and I'm seeing about 8 knots SOG. Let's bring that speed up through the rev range. Got some small boats cruising around the island here. Don't see any tourists making their way across from the mainland just yet. And I got one boat way out there in the distance, which we'll keep an eye out for in a second. Okay, coming up to 1,000 revs. I got my aft camera here, which is super handy. You can just see what's happening on the swim platform. We've got a Brig Eagle tender out there, so that's useful. We're running at about 45% fuel on the tanks, and I can see 9.8 pushing 10 knots and about 1,050 RPM, 32% load, and I can see 41 litres per hour. 41 litres per hour. That is per side. I'm going to stand and increase that speed a little bit. That boat's going fast, so I'm not worried about him anymore, and just continue out into the open water here. 1,150 RPM. He's towing a skier. Oh, good for him. Nice time of the morning to do it. All right, just going to do a little bit of trim down. That's on the trim tabs as I increase my speed. 1,200 RPM. 11 knots. 1/3 trim tab down. 65 litres per hour. I'll just see if trim tab makes any difference at this speed. We'll just do half trim tab and see if that changes the fuel flow, stay at the same revs. Not much to speak of there, to be fair. Okay, so let's increase that power, and I'm actually going to make a turn into the rising sun. I like to do these shoots somewhat early when I'm in Southeast Asia, because it does get quite hot here. Super stable through the turn. 1,350 RPM. We're seeing 12 knots. I got half trim tab down on both tabs. Now we've got a little bit of sea state coming across our starboard bow. A few little short, sharp ones. Hopefully you can see on the camera the boat's super level. So this is going to be really comfortable for the guests. Also, noise levels are minimal. I'm just going to do autopilot, and let's let the boat drive there, and let's just do the noise levels for you. Okay. See that? It's like conversation levels, except for when I talk at it. conversation level decibels. So very, very nice. Insulation is fantastic. So if you're a guest, you can be walking all the way around this boat. You're not going to be interfered by the engine noise. So it's going to be quite comfortable. So that's a 1,350 RPM, 12 knots. Let's speed up. Okay, now she's really starting to boogie. I can feel the hull's really doing her thing. It's comfortable, insulation's good, not too much noise or banging against the hull, and engine noise is just very minimal considering there's stonking great big mans. But we're sitting on 16 knots there. 16 knots at 1600 RPM, 122 litres per side, and that's a 56% load. Really comfortable. I'm going to do a turn to starboard, all clear, and I'm going to increase my speed. Okay, so we're going to be heading into the waves in a second. So that's, if you're going to notice any noise on the hull or slapping on with the waves against the hull, this will be the time to listen out for it. And we're doing that now at 1,680 RPM and pretty much going into the wind and waves now. Very comfortable. Hopefully this camera can pick up the horizon against the bow there. Let's just autopilot, and we're sitting on 18 knots. I've got 1,680 RPM, all clear around. I'm using fuel flow of 140 litres an hour per side and 61% load. Now I just want to play with these trim tabs to see if that does give us any difference on fuel flow. So I'm just lowering full trim tab down now. I see a noticeable lowering of the bow, and look at that. Fuel flows just dropped down to 140 litres per hour going into the wind at this speed. So we've just raised our bum a little bit and we're much more efficient through the water, and we're saving 20 litres per side, which is interesting. So that's good. Let's just bump that up a little bit more, and we're going to keep heading out to sea a bit before we do a full speed run very quickly on our way more downwind. Okay, increasing from 1600 to 1700, coming through 1750. I'm seeing 19 knots and we're hitting 20. We're going to get to 22 and 24 in a second. This boat just feels like she is very comfortable at these speeds. This is a planing hull. It's a planing hull that you'll also sit in displacement mode with the stabilizers on and go long distances. But what's nice about a Princess is that she really will eat up some chop and eat up some ocean swell should you desire or need to. And I think that's something that a lot of you watching this are going to value. Or if you just want to give it to the captain and transit the boat to a new island or a new location, like in this part of the world, and you fly in and meet it as you see fit, it's very good for that too, because you can reposition the boat with relative ease. So we're now seeing 20, almost 21 knots, a little bit over 1800 RPM, 1850, and I'm going to take her off autopilot and going to increase that speed a little bit more before we start our turn downwind. Okay, pilot drive stopped. Okay, I'm not using the pilot drive, that's not a problem. And increase that speed. So now we're coming up through 1900 revs, still into the wind. I've got one boat there, another one on the horizon, and another one there, clear otherwise, and I'm free of fisherman's pots. 1,950 RPM. I'm seeing 23 knots. Look at that. That is a really comfortable, fast cruise should you desire. We're at the most bumpy setting now, guys, going into the waves. Just listen. How nice is this? We're consuming 200 litres a side. We're at 70% load. So you could do this all day if you so desired. You're going to get to your destination, everyone's going to be comfortable, and now let's just put those waves on our port beam, and then we're going to run down swell and just listen to the noise, and honestly the engine insulation, the sound insulation from these motors is just fantastic. So now we've got the swell on our port beam, stabilization is working really nicely, and I'm going to increase that speed. We're just going to do a little tad more speed and see how she goes at 24. Now I've got the waves on my port aft quarter. I'm seeing 24.5 actually at 2070 RPM. I got a fuel flow of 228 aside. I've got one boat and one island, which I need to slow down before both. And actually I'm just gonna pick clear water just to play it safe, and we'll just do a little blast here, 26 knots and climbing. We've got more to play with. I've got my trim tabs fully down, and she starts to feel a little bit lively at these speeds. I'm now seeing 29 SOG. With the waves on my port aft quarter, I'm consuming 300 litres a side. Ah, oh, don't you just love fossil fuels? 300 litres a side, having a great time. This is great. All right, 31, and we'll just give it one little, that's foot to the floor, 2,350 and climbing, not completely flat water, and I'm seeing 32 and climbing. Another little play with the trim tabs, 33 and climbing, and I'm going to call it in a sec, and I'm just going to play with the trim tabs one final little time, see if that makes much of a difference. I think we've got, with a loaded boat, 33 knots is our speed, and 300 odd litres a side consumption, but you're not going to do that all day long, so let's just wind that speed back down again. And so next we're going to a beautiful island with wonderfully clear water, and we're going to be playing with the anchor. We're going to look at the variable speed thrusters, which have got side push, and we also have a wing station on this boat. So we've got flybridge, lower helm, wing station option, and then we're going to go into greater detail about the crew quarters, crew facilities, and the operational aspects down in the engine bay. But just coming off the plane there, I love this aft-facing camera. If you are driving this boat yourself, or if you are a captain advising your owner, you can drop this window here, you can open this door here, so communication around the boat is good. Your visibility is fantastic just with the windows, but you've also got the technology available to you with the 3 screens, with the autopilot, stabilization, and the bi-data repeater just here giving you everything you need. Your workload on a boat like this, I feel like it's quite minimal, so you can do those things like increase speeds potentially in a busy waterway and still leave enough of your headspace free to look for dangers and make sure you're doing everything safely. So that's what I like about some of these modern Princesses. You can really still run a boat, which is, let's face it, this thing's massive with the amount of accommodation that we have on this, amount of people we can accommodate for one day, but you could actually run it safely with minimal crew. Very interesting. Okay, let's see you over in the anchorage. Okay, we've come up to the flybridge. You just take command by pressing this button here. Anchoring, relatively straightforward. This is obviously a crewed boat, so I didn't do it, but I was observing the guys through the drone. So not a lot to it, to be honest, because the design of the bow, the anchor can swing around, and it's got lots of space to move if it needs. What I'm going to do now, I'm actually just out on the wind a little bit. I had to create some sea room from all the tourist boats. I'm just doing some transverse thrust, and I'm going to let the boat spin around on station here using throttles only. We have variable speed bow and stern thrusters as well, and I'll give them a little touch up in a second, although the place I wanted to do it to match the drone shots has just been taken. I'm just kind of being polite here. But as you might be able to see, the rate of turn, it's plenty. So if you're coming from an IPS drive boat or an outboard powered boat for that matter, a big difference when you've got twin 5-blade shaft, straight shaft drives. They've got heaps of torque, heaps of power, and you can really get the boat moving. So hopefully that's immediately obvious. And what I'm going to do, I'll actually stop the rate of turn now, and I'm going to stop it with the wind on my stern. So it's not exactly going to match the drone shots. But now this is my variable speed stern and bow at the front, stern at the back. And by putting a little bit of pressure on both of these thrusters, I can actually walk the boat sideways. And so I'm going to actually just do a little bit more of the stern. And so from all the way up here, you can't actually hear them too much. So you have these progress bars on the screen showing you what's going on. What's useful with these in a parking situation, you can actually just press the boat up against the dock and actually keep it there to allow you or the crew time to do your thing. Now, you don't have to do it from up here because we have a wing station and it's just down on the starboard side. So this is just showing you what the boat is capable of, and it's for someone who's come from a lot of other drive systems, it's actually a lot easier to drive a boat this size with shaft drives because they do just have so much torque, and it's a heavy enough boat that it's going to respond in a slow and a graceful manner. It's not going to be aggressive and frightening like some sports boats are, to be fair, that I've driven in this size range that are much more on the performance side of things, and they lurch into power and you can really get ahead of yourself if you're not careful. Something like this, not so much, much more luxurious. Guys, if you haven't tried this fully crewed yacht experience, I highly recommend it. I mean, driving's fun and all, but I tell you what, putting covers on, cleaning boats and all that management, it's kind of all right leaving it to someone else, and that's definitely the vibe this part of the world, and a boat like this is perfectly suited to fully crewed operations. So yeah, you do you if that's the style, the lifestyle that you're looking for. But how would you compare this to other brands? Where does she fit in the market? This is a solid piece of kit. She's obviously wonderful in these beautiful, calm tropical seas, but I would happily run a Princess up and down the coast, east coast of Australia or the US, for example. They're a nice hull. The active fin stabilization makes a difference. They're better than gyros if you're going into the ocean, in my personal opinion and experience. And it's just a well-known brand focusing back on the Asian region. If you want something that you can trade up, if you want something that's saleable, not all brands are popular in this part of the world. I'm talking Hong Kong, I'm talking Singapore, I'm talking Bangkok. So make sure you stick with a reputable dealer. Boat Lagoon Yachting, these guys are the Princess dealers for the whole of Southeast Asia. They are well known. They're selling a lot of Princesses and other brands in this part of the world. That is super important. If you don't have the support structure, that's the word I was looking for. If you don't have the right support structure from crew to brand to dealer, you could be left a little bit on your own in this part of the world because they don't have the same sort of infrastructure that we have in, say, America or Australia or Europe. You may already know that if you're looking at this video from Bangkok, but if you're also looking at, owning a Princess and you live in Moscow, just make sure you make these inquiries and do your own research, because I'm noticing a difference, and it is all about support, people and brand. That's a big thing in this part of the world. So I hope that was useful. I hope you learned something from it. If you want to know more, I'm actually now available for text and phone call questions and answers on an app called Connect. That is available in the link below. I've also got exclusive extra content that I post up there. So go ahead and follow the links down below if that's of interest to you. It seems to be solely boat buyers who are wanting an opinion on one boat versus another. So if I have the answers, I'm more than happy to help out. I'm going to pop up another boat that's in this size range, another British brand on the screen right now for you to go and do your own homework, because that's what I'm all about. I'm Dan Jones. You've been watching Dan's Boat Life. Thank you. Coming from wonderful Thailand. I love this place. I'll see you on the next one. See you guys.